Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. Happy Friday. I'm Matthew Alvarez.
I'm Robert McNeely. We are covering the latest from President Trump's trip to the Middle East. And Matthew, I truly believe, on the record, this is the best week for this administration. Going back to Monday, the EO on prescription drug prices, the stock market skyrocketing after the great week last weekend by Scott Bessent, Jameson Greer in Geneva, dealing with Chinese counterparts, and now this in the Middle East. If you're criticizing this, which you're right in this country, that's a beautiful thing about freedom of speech, you do have Trump derangement syndrome, because I don't understand how trillions and trillions of dollars coming to our country can be a bad thing.
Exactly, and Carolyn Levitt actually posted all of the accomplishments from this Middle East trip. We'll get to that in a second. And everything summed up of what we're saying here at the beginning of today's broadcast is summed up this way. The White House recently said the Trump effect is igniting the golden age. So true.
Amen, amen, amen. And it's a beautiful live look there of the Capitol building on this Friday, May 16th, and there, your White House. President Trump scheduled to return today. We'll have some of the press gaggles for you. Also, great shots of Air Force One, as I mentioned the other day. Looks great in the desert, so maybe he'll take a West Coast trip, especially after the House passing that budget item with no tax on tips. So the Republican agenda coming forward. Sadly, I don't believe any Democrats joined on the other side of the aisle, but that's okay.
Hopefully they'll wake up one of these days, because we see that the majority of the country is on the right side of history. So we're looking forward to seeing President Trump back on United States soil as of this hour right now, 9:34 a.m. He's on Air Force One on the way back to the United States of America after that great three-nation trip to the Middle East. So we're looking forward to seeing some video from the UAE as he took off. And then, of course, again, to your point, Robert, the press gaggle on the plane to hear what he has to say. Speaking of hearing what he has to say, there was an interview with Bret Baier recently over on Fox in the UAE before he left. And it was right when he asked about the whole James Comey situation going on right now. And if you don't know what happened there, Comey posted something on Instagram with a couple numbers on there referring to something along the lines of getting rid of somebody, or in some cases, murdering or assassinating somebody. These are not my words. This is President Trump now saying to Bret Baier, I believe he was meaning assassination. And then Don Jr. saying something online as well about murdering my father. That's what he's calling for. So you'll see that story out there. It's one that Tulsi Gabbard is now calling for the arrest of James Comey. I mean, this is very serious stuff, and we're following it here at Right Side Broadcasting.
I think at the very least, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, perhaps Tulsi Gabbard with her role, and maybe even Kristi Noem at DHS, need to launch an investigation into James Comey. At the very least, Congress should do that immediately. And perhaps he does have to be arrested, because 8647 in seashells, and then saying, I've came across some interesting seashell formation. How bizarre, how strange. Why would you put something like that out there? But we know with this man, he has some kind of critical error in his thinking. But again, these are trained spies. This is someone that sent his own agents to the White House, bragged about it while on his book tour during the first administration. There's a courtesy that's usually given to an administration saying, hey, these guys are coming over to check some things out. So he thought he was above the law. And thank God for a person like Kash Patel to not only streamline, but to get the FBI in order, because 90% of the organization, I mean, these are great people. This is National Police Week. They're giving up their lives to serve this country. They have family members they have to come home to, God willing, and they are willing to take on that risk of losing their lives on a daily basis for us, the American people. But it was that rotten core at the top under James Comey and his associates that tried to really go around our electoral process. They truly hate our Constitution.
That is exactly right, Robert. And so what we know is Kash Patel saying that the Secret Service is the lead on this, and the FBI is helping with anything that's needed as well. So we'll monitor that. And one more point about that, I'm sure we'll bring it up a few times during this broadcast, because I think the two top stories right now, of course, the accomplishments of this great Middle East trip, but also what's happening with the James Comey story. So those are the two top stories that we're seeing here. And speaking of stories and James Comey, then Bret Baier, when he asked, the president about the situation, President Trump said he believes that would be an assassination threat. Bret Baier, instead of being more neutral with it, instead goes and defends Comey and says, well, he apologized for that. well, if you commit any kind of crime and then apologize later, it's still a committed crime, you know? So
absolutely.
That's unfortunate that that happened there. But regardless, we know that President Trump on the way back to this American soil here in the United States, and I posted about that this morning, and all the comments are like, hey, I'm just so glad that he's coming back. Thank God.
Oh, yeah, it was an incredible trip. And think about this. The UAE, a sitting president has not stood on that ground in 30 years, receiving the highest civilian award from the United Arab Emirates. And then in Qatar, a U.S. president had never been there. So the emir just thrilled to have him. And whether it was the emir in Qatar, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, or the president, Sheikh Mohammed in the UAE, breaking protocol to greet President Trump right at Air Force One, to escort him into their palaces, and then to usher him out to the next legs of his trip. All meanwhile, in the Beast, with white stallions surrounded. Also, a lot of people took to TikTok and other social media apps, and you saw that hair swinging with the UAE, with those younger girls doing that. That's a very traditional Arab custom of high honor, symbolizing someone who is the peacemaker, who is the protector. It just doesn't happen willy-nilly. No one was trying to embarrass him. He even said, I love this. This is amazing, with the traditional sword dance. So for those of you on the far left of history, on the progressive side, and this idea that President Trump is such an embarrassment abroad, I just let you look back, scrub back to our coverage this whole past week. I hope you're tuning in today as well, because we saw one of the most successful foreign trips in the history of the American presidency.
Exactly, and we're going to dive into that in just a second. First, all of this brought to you by some great sponsors here at Right Side, including Colonial Metals Group. Robert, as we know, you have a QR code. It's freegoldguide.com.
And with the Chinese Communist Party and their antics, we saw them buying up prime farmland around our bases, the spy balloon under AutoPen, and now the war games against Taiwan, one of our best traders out there, where you get a lot of the chips and the minerals for these guys right here. They deserve to be free. They want to be free. But what does that mean for your wallet? Well, gold and silver must be part of that portfolio, whether it's properties, assets, 401ks, or IRA. Freegoldguide.com/RSBN will help show you that path. With Paul Stone, the wonderful CEO, comes on here to talk about why gold and silver are necessary. Also, Judge Jeanine Pirro, she's going to be the top attorney in D.C. thanks to President Trump. She loves this group, and many other good patriots do. So scan the QR code now. Shield your savings today. Freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Thank you to Paul Stone and Colonial Metals Group.
And a shout out to the attorney Ed Martin as well, doing great things for our country. And we're loving the fact that Pirro is going to do great as well in Washington. All right, so it's 9:40 this morning. Let's go to one more sponsor. Before we break down a lot of these accomplishments that we've seen over the past 3 days, let's go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. If you're in need of ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine or methylene blue, or there's more than 200 essential medications available at allfamilypharmacy.com, including antibiotics. I mean, it's a lot of good stuff there if you need it.
And think about this, no insurance, no hassle. You need a doctor's prescription, but their doctors are on call 24/7. So if your medicine cabinet is empty, which it should never be, because look at the storms, especially through the southeast this year. We talked to David McCary recently from All Family Pharmacy, and he spoke to, what if the electricity goes down? We experienced it here in the southeast. I was in D.C. for the inauguration. But there was an ice storm here, so people were isolated off the roads. What do you do in a situation like that? Well, thank God for allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. They could bring that medication right to your door within 24 hours. So you must be prepared in 2025, and this is your go-to. And for a limited time now, RSBN 10% off this great order with all of this essential medication. Can you imagine going to the pharmacy? I've experienced it myself, where it is in stock, but there is a doctor who didn't want me to have it for one reason or the other. And then it's been interesting because we know that ivermectin, methylene blue, these have been time-tested medications that have helped with a number of diseases throughout many decades.
Exactly. So there you go. You see it right there. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, a great sponsor here at Right Side. We'll be talking more about this sponsor a little bit later in the broadcast. All right, 9:42, Friday, May 16th. Happy Friday to you. We're looking forward to the Commander-in-Chief, the leader of the free world, back in that house, back in the United States. Looking forward to it. We have a lot of coverage to get to, including video of the president taking off from the UAE. Also, we have that press gaggle or a press conference that was on Air Force One. So as soon as we hear that that is ready to go, we'll go to that video. In the meantime, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt posted about the Middle East accomplishments on Truth Social this morning. President Trump's first official foreign trip was a huge success, full of great deals for America, she says. President Trump announced Saudi Arabia's $600 billion commitment to invest in the United States, marking a new historic era of partnership between the two countries. Your thoughts about that one, just with Saudi Arabia?
Well, I mean, it's extraordinary. And then they'll be getting many of our military equipment, technologies. This pushes back against Iran. This brings peace to the Middle East. And Israel can take a breath of relief in this because it's Abraham Accords 2.0 with this large military sale. And like our Golden Dome that is similar to Israel that we will have here in the coming weeks, months, years, perhaps. I know President Trump is very passionate about this. Same with those Gulf states, putting those technologies into practice to protect their region. Because remember, they had to fight off the Houthi rebels. They were the first to deal with the disruption in trade, especially in oil and energy commodities. That's done now. The ISIS caliphate, once again, over, whether economically done, whether it's the pirates, and especially the thing that I think has been very criticized here in the United States on both sides of the aisle, the removal of the sanctions for Syria. But President Trump literally nuked, proverbially speaking, the neocon and the neoliberal philosophy of let's blow it up first and then ask questions later. You got to dialogue with people, and he's giving the Syrians a chance at peace and prosperity. Here's a whole blueprint now. So all the extremist governments in the Middle East, Iran, Syria, the terrorists, you can now look at, wow, the Gulf states have it under control. Oh, they're rich. Oh, wow, there's peace, there's strength, there's goodness happening. Maybe they will convert from their extreme ways, but we have yet to see that. I think it's a great opportunity for peace in the Middle East led by Donald Trump.
And before we continue on with the Qatar visit, the details and the accomplishments there, let's switch from the international coverage to domestic real quick. As we may be seeing, the director has to let me know what we're looking at right now. But in the meantime, what I can say is that in Providence, Rhode Island, so domestic speaking here, the fact that the Providence, Rhode Island City Council, city government, is instead of putting the American flag above the building today, May 16th, Friday, the Gateway Pundit is reporting that they are proud and excited to raise the Palestinian flag on the top of the Providence, Rhode Island City Hall today. Let's just let that sink in for a second. But my point is, Old Glory is what is needed to be flying above all government buildings across this country. Let's shift back to Qatar. So President Trump signed an agreement with Qatar to generate an economic exchange worth at least, get this, $1.2 trillion. And then the president also announced the economic deals totaling more than $243 billion between the two countries, including a historic sale of Boeing aircraft and GE Aerospace engines to Qatar Airways. And of course, that Qatar plane, the 747, being gifted to the United States Department of Defense.
Yes, wins across the board, huge economic opportunities for the United States. And what does that mean at stateside? Well, it means hundreds of thousands of jobs that will not be temporary, but will go on for a long period of time. So think about if you're in the technology field, AI, or perhaps an engineer, especially working with the military or as a private contractor. Great opportunities forthcoming. I'd be sending that resume out if you have those skills, because literally hundreds of thousands of jobs will be created because of these new deals.
Exactly. So we have more deals talking over the Middle East trip, including President Trump announced more than $20 billion in commercial deals between the United States and United Arab Emirates, where President Trump was recently and is on the way now back to the States via Air Force One. So in total, Robert, President Trump secured more than $2 trillion in investment agreements with these three Middle East nations, paving the way for a more safe and prosperous future. So I would call that an A+++ trip.
Yes, absolutely. It's extraordinary, and it's sure to have different effects on further trips forthcoming. So we're excited to cover all of that for you on the right side of history as President Trump is en route back to the United States. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stopped in Turkey, so he cut his Middle East trip short to help finalize negotiations between Russian officials, also Ukrainian officials. And I believe President Zelensky is part of all that. President Putin of Russia decided to send some of his top officials, and therefore President Trump said, I have to talk to Putin. He's not going to be there, so I'm not going to go to Turkey. Erdogan has it, Zelensky has it, and he goes, Marco Rubio, more than capable. He's been the most incredible Secretary of State, so I'm sure we'll have some upcoming updates with that conflict, hopefully finally coming to an end. We know that minerals deal coming through as well, and a minerals deal also attached to the Saudi Arabian $600 billion deal with the United States. So much needed things for us so we can continue a society as large as ours, as a consumer economy. And this is in turn affecting the Chinese Communist Party. We are no longer becoming slaves to their commerce, and that's a good thing ultimately, because we know they manipulate their currency. They are trafficking Uyghur Muslims and sending them to concentration camps. They are a surveillance state, the way they treat their own citizens, and we know that Xi Jinping is, it sounds extreme, but really the second coming of Hitler in so many ways. I mean, what he's done to his predecessor, what he's done to others in the party, he has totalitarian power, and he's someone not to be taken kindly. And President Trump gets that. He has a good relationship with him. He dialogues with him, but he understands where he's coming from. He is a straw man, and he rules China with an iron fist. And this is good to see global partnerships that will turn away from this extremism and allow freedom to flourish.
Exactly. All right, so we're getting ready for some more sponsors here. Before we do, there's some other stories we're following. We're just going to do 30,000-foot view headlines of what they are, and then we'll tackle some analysis and the latest news from each. The James Comey story, we're following that here. Providence, Rhode Island, Palestinian flag on top of City Hall. They're doing that today, May 16th. And just in from Libs of TikTok, Verizon ending all DEI programs. Verizon ending all DEI programs. A lot going on this Friday, May 16th. On top of that, we're going to hear from President Trump on Air Force One as he is on his way back to the United States of America. All right, let's go to angelpaste.com/RSBN or angelpaste.com. You can use that RSBN promo code, of course, for this product. But Robert, as you know, there's more than just the Miracle Cream. There's a lot of other products on there to choose from.
Yes, you have the Orange Immunity option that is filled with vitamin C. All of these products, non-GMO, no chemicals. They're out of the Lone Star State of Texas in Spring, a lovely town just outside of Houston. And that's off of the Gulf of America, as we know. So if you need that natural mosquito repellent, which they probably need right now, I mean, we're starting to see some of those bugs pop up down here in Auburn, Alabama. But they also have a facial spray for guys and gals. So when you're ready to paint the town red, a great thing to do to look a little bit more cheery and have your skin glowing. So many good products. Experience the miracle today at angelpaste.com.
And don't forget to use that RSBN promo code as well. Let's also move to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. So RSBN 10 will get you 10% off a number of medications there. So ivermectin, all right, so if you tried to get it through a lot of the doctors out there or, pharmacies, it's really hard to get. There are some doctors that are really good with it and will prescribe it, but others will say, well, you're not a horse. That's what Lars Larson told me on this show, referring to allfamilypharmacy.com, that one of the doctors told one of his friends when they asked for ivermectin, well, you're not, what are you, a horse? I mean, that's crazy that kind of thing would even be just talked about when it's a drug that actually works.
And especially against COVID. So it's a great option if you want to go that way. Methylene Blue, 200 other essential medications, antibiotics, 10% off now with RSBN 10. RSBN 10 is that code, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. But really, you need to be prepared in this day and age. Have that medicine cabinet full. So even if your spouse who might have blood pressure, or say the kid's gotten sick and they have dizzy spells or a fever or the flu, especially as they're coming out of the school year, nice to have that medicine cabinet stocked and ready to go in case there's an emergency in the middle of the night.
Exactly. So it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. The thing that's great too is you can bulk order. So bulk order more than, if you want, 200 medications that, again, this is a medical online paperwork that you'll have to fill out. You're not just going to get anything you ask for. You just have to fill some things out and then you purchase, the drugs. But also, according to what some of the interviews that we have done with All Family Pharmacy, it is pretty streamlined. So if you do request a certain medication, You will be getting it, but at the end of the day, what we know is more than 200 essential medications, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and ivermectin. Get 10% off. Use that RSBN 10 promo code. All right, so about 8 minutes to the top of the hour on this happy Friday. Glad President Trump's on his way back. Glad there's a lot of economic deals done in the Middle East. Not so glad that James Comey said what he said on Instagram. As President Trump said to an interview to good old Bret Baier, President Trump said that it is referring to an assassination call with what happened there, as you mentioned before, the 8647 stones or pebbles on the beach there. It's great to see other patriots put out there, well, Trump won, and using AI on the beach instead. You know what I mean? Or like, I won't say the other one. Maybe I will. Why not? It's freedom of speech. I think Cat Turd said that James Comey pees sitting down. So anyway, the point is, thank God for freedom of speech. But this is not a. See, here's the thing. There's a difference between if there is an actual violent threat that is illegal. You can't say certain things, and that's fine. It's okay. But if you're doing a meme and you say something like that, maybe in the UK or in some other country, they count that as a penalty or a crime. Can you believe that?
Right. No, it's amazing to think that the land that brought us Magna Carta, and we have so many connections with, really violating free speech recently. And London, beautiful. The UK, fantastic. And even though we have this great new trade agreement with them, and Prime Minister Starmer really speaking highly of President Trump's skills and negotiation and business prowess, it's frightening to think that the UK is just losing its culture, and that what grounded it for years, not only the Christian church, but also your ability to speak your minds in certain corridors. Of course, they never had that First Amendment like we do, but the birth of the dignity of each and every human right under God came from Magna Carta. That's what came into our founding documents, and to see what the UK has now done is rather frightening.
Just imagine if you were a Chinese national, a Chinese citizen, someone that loves freedom and actually loves President Trump, but you can't say anything about it. What if you posted on social media, something like, Xi Jinping, we want freedom, ! And had the Chinese flag? What would happen to you? And that's the thing that for me, deep down in what I believe is we don't want that here in this country. And I believe that we were closely getting there if they would have stole the last election, or if our election wasn't too big to rig. That's what we have to defend from, is those basic things, that weaponization against President Trump and we the people. And one other thing about James Comey, this is all, again, on the record, fact spoken by other people that I'm reporting right now. President Trump called him in that Fox interview a dirty cop with quite the history. So that's one thing. I've seen other people, maybe not obviously as high as President Trump, saying he's a traitor to the country. So what are we doing here? Are we going to go soft on this situation and kind of like let it slide? Or are we going to really do what we have to do when it comes to justice being served? We want in 2829 of this country safety, prosperity, freedom of speech. We don't want a worse government coming in, whether they try and steal the election, whatever happens. We just want to be able to have justice be served to those deep staters that are now gone or hiding in the woodworks. I'm not afraid to say any of this. Why? Because it's truth, because it's common sense, and I believe God is with this network. I believe God is with us here, and God is with you, we the people, and we believe in what we're saying here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And that oath that's taken by every level of government is the same oath of the President of the United States to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. James Comey is the Benedict Arnold of our time. You're innocent until proven guilty, but who in that position, whether or not you currently have it, but with a resume as his, he should not be sharing seashells like that, and I wonder who put it together. It's like 1 and 1 equals 2. So let's see a forthcoming investigation. Let's have him arrested, perhaps, because it is a threat against the sitting commander-in-chief, and that should never stand. And if you look at the last decade especially, the attacks on conservative politicians, Steve Scalise almost lost his life. If it wasn't for Jeff Flake and Rand Paul, in that moment, 2 medical doctors, one a former senator, one still serving, if they didn't take off the belt and the tourniquet, Steve would be gone. He would have bled out. And it was a Bernie Sanders supporter. And Republicans chose to rise above it and not blame Bernie Sanders for his extreme rhetoric, but you're seeing it again with his tour with AOC and calling for violence against Republicans and conservatives. You've seen it with J.B. Pritzker, his extremism on his tour to try to become the next president of the United States. Stop. Let's bring it down. And you could say that to both sides of the aisle, but especially for these far left people in power. It's just a disgrace, and they know what they're doing in order to incite chaos. And I think at the end of the day, they probably just don't love this country. Why else would they do something such as that?
So we're in fifth gear right now, manual transmission right now this morning on this Friday, May 16th. Let's go down to third or second and say the following. Watch this. Robert McNeely is a host here at this network, and he was saying how maybe James Comey should be arrested. Let's go now back to fifth gear and say Tulsi Gabbard, the director of the National Intelligence on national TV, said she thinks that Comey should be in jail. So we got to let that sink in. So we're not just, saying stuff here for ratings or any of that crap. We're really just talking how you guys would talk, the majority of we the people. This is what we see in our country. We want justice to be served. We want this country to be protected and saved going into the midterms, 2026, going into 2028 and 2029. We love what's happening with President Trump right now. We're going to see I think it's even ramping up even to a higher level. We thought the first 100 days were crazy in the sense of good crazy. Wait till these next 100 and the 100 after that and the 100 after that.
Well, it's going to be extraordinary, and until January 2029, so we could smile with President Trump in the White House. And again, he's not taking a salary. He's donating it every quarter to those who need it the most. And this positive populism, if you will, really making a massive difference for the American middle class and for those who should be put first, especially those who wear the uniform. And we celebrate them this week, whether it's our nurses, our police officers, and all those first responders, paramedics, to our military. Thank you for what you do. And thank God for a president who cares deeply about what you do. I've seen it in person, the way he stands there and shakes every hand of every officer at each and every rally that he attended back on the campaign trail, but also the great address to those stationed in Qatar and Kuwait. That was really a great pep rally for our troops overseas, getting to see their commander-in-chief.
And getting to see Theo Von step up there and rip it with comedy. Very fun to watch that as well. It's 10 o'clock. It's the top of the hour on the East Coast, 7 o'clock out there on the West Coast. We have a number of videos to get to from overnight with President Trump. We have not aired them yet here on Right Side, including the takeoff from the UAE in Abu Dhabi and also the press gaggle that was on the actual Air Force One that's on the way back here to the States right now. So a little bit of a Q&A. Very interesting. We'll look forward to hearing that from the president. In the meantime, President Trump back in the UAE. This is some recorded video, of course, from overnight. Let's take a look at video of where he was signing a guest book there in the UAE.
Well, thank you very much. This was a great and just an amazing day. This was a little bit of an endurance test. He was just testing to see whether or not I had the endurance. I do very easily. We could have done it 10 times over. But what a beautiful job. It's made easier by the incredible work you've done. So thank you very much. On behalf of a lot of these people that came with me, congratulations. Beautiful job. Nothing like it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
It's like in the Oval, just a lot heavier.
Sir, your message to the people of Abu Dhabi and UAE?
Well, it's just a message of unity when you look at what we've just seen. It's great unity, great faith. They're incredible people with a tremendous leader who's a friend of mine. Thank you very much, everybody.
What's amazing, Mr. President, due to the timing, so it's 5:30, the church bells ring. Right after that, we have the Muslim call prayer. And the whole city gets ready. And we have, it's very important for us to have this.
All right, of course, President Trump, video from overnight at the UAE. Now, next, the Abrahamic House is what he would be touring. I believe the Abrahamic House has the Islam faith, Jewish faith, Christian faith, all in one building. I'm not sure if people practice their faith within that building, but it's still something that President Trump checked out in the Abu Dhabi area. So a lot going on there with that trip. I mean, there's so many different aspects to it.
Yeah, there really is, from the cultural significance to the business at hand, and not only building relations, but these great trillion-dollar deals, billions and trillions, in fact, when you really break them up, but regardless, trillions and trillions of wealth coming to the United States in different technological forms, AI, military, oil, and energy, great partnerships that will ensure international security in a region of the world that historically has been quite violent and plagued by sectarian violence. But the people of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE want a bright future. And it's truly a golden era for them, as it is for us.
Exactly. All right, so what we're hearing is that we will be able to play the audio from Air Force One, where President Trump had that back and forth with the reporters there. Specifically, the reason is there were some technical glitches with the actual on-camera feed. For anybody, any network has received it. Same thing with us right here at Right Side. So we're going to air at least the audio so we can hear what President Trump was talking about on that trip back to the United States. Specifically, I'm sure there'll be questions about the whole James Comey scandal and situation that's going on right now, and also anything else when it comes to the Middle East and just coming back to the United States for the weekend. So we'll have that a bit later. Also, we do have that video from the tour of the Abrahamic House. So as soon as we hear that that's ready, we'll go to that as well on this Friday, May 16th at 10:05 a.m. Let's go to Colonial Metals Group. In the meantime, freegoldguide.com/RSBN. The QR code's great too. You can just use your phone, pop the QR code up there, and get the information you need. I mean, it's an info kit all about gold, silver, tax-sheltered IRA, 401k, backed in gold, 100% tax-free too.
Yes, and it is so important in this day and age because regardless of these great deals and regardless of President Trump being in office, which is huge and successful for our wallets at the end of the day, we're still $36 trillion in debt. We're still dealing with inflation in some regards. We are dealing with a hangover from the Autopen administration. And it's the living former predecessors who really put us at a disadvantage. They defunded Detroit and they built up Beijing in the last 25, 30 years or so. Well, President Trump this week released the Trump Doctrine 2.0, once again, peace through strength, and crushed the neoliberal and neocon agendas of Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and the Autopen. And that means good things for you. But in the meantime, gold and silver have always stood the test of time. The hot commodity, up over 7,000% gold is since 1971. So it's never gone down, only goes up. you should add it to your portfolio. Scan that QR code now. freegoldguy.com/RSBN. Thank you to Paul Stone and Colonial Metals Group, truly the best in the business.
Another great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. This is RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez alongside Robert McNeely here on this Friday, May 16th. Thanks so much for joining us right now. We do know we'll get that audio from Air Force One, the press gaggle between the president and the press there. We'll have that for you here shortly. And you mentioned the name George W. Bush. Well, I'll tell you what, if he was any kind of patriot, he would have come to President Trump's defense over the past 4 years, and he didn't. And there's really not much more to say.
Yeah, it's true. It's the he nuked the Bush families and the Clinton families, of course. That is political speech for those listening on the globalist side of history. I'm not advocating for violence. I'm advocating for winning at the ballot box. And when you look back to 2016, coming down the golden escalator, whenever I feel a little bit down in the dumps, which is rare, but when I'm blue, I'll just turn on that compilation of George Clooney and the Bushes and the Clintons and many other people saying he'll never be president. Yeah. Barack Hussein Obama on that one guy's late night show. I don't even know. He's more of a political activist than a comedian.
Yeah.
But the mic drop by Barack Hussein Obama, at least I'll be a president. Well, I guess you were wrong. And maybe BHO now realizes that maybe Trump isn't such a bad guy, because they seem to have a really nice conversation at Jimmy Carter's funeral at the Washington National Cathedral back in January. I would have loved to have listened to that conversation. It looked like it was interesting, engaging for both men.
Definitely, definitely. All right, so moving to the next section of our coverage, as it's 8 after 10. Thanks again for waking up with us on the West Coast, Mountain Time Zone. Hopefully you're awake on the Central already, and of course you're awake on the East Coast at 10:08, depending on what shift you work too. I mean, there's a lot of shifts out there, and it's right. Even in media, we could work overnight shifts, early morning shifts, day, night, whatever, because the news really doesn't stop.
And hats off to those warriors that really believe in their craft. Even if you're the guy who is working as a janitor overnight, thank you for what you do, because there's so many great careers where you could serve other people, and I feel it's so special about journalism, this medium of broadcast media specifically, is that we could bring this all to you. And what's different about RSBN versus other networks, well, we support all of the new media, and it's outstanding what's happening. We're truly your go-to live desk. So if you were with us last decade for the rallies and everything President Donald Trump, well, you have that now. Unbridled coverage of your president and your vice president, the 119th Congress, but also a live desk that brings you to hearings, brings you to the speeches in real time or played back. And we don't edit it. We go right to what's there for you, so you can make up your own mind. It's not just, let's hit this real quick and then go back to the talking heads. We'll analyze that for you. We're happy to do it. But we want to bring you all of that coverage so you are a well-informed voter and citizen.
Exactly. Well said. And also, we monitor the latest news stories happening out there. We see the James Comey story out there. We've been talking about it a lot. If you're just joining us, maybe scrub back a little later, and we'll also talk about it, I'm sure, again. Also, Verizon, a story from Libs of TikTok just saying that Verizon's ending all DEI programs. Another headline we're following out of Providence, Rhode Island. More than 1 million people live in that state, and the Gateway Pundit reporting that the Palestinian flag will be flying above City Hall today, not the United States American flag. So those are a few stories we're following. On top of that, President Trump's trip back to the Middle East. This all brought to you by callshe.com/RSBN. So, if you want a better trade on of various topics, whether it's weather, sports, politics, if you have a question out there, say, what's the temperature going to be in New York today? I mean, I've actually seen that on Callshe. You can bet on that, trade on it, and make some money. So callshe.com, the sponsor here at Right Side.
Hey, great. You can scan that QR code right there under our chins, and it's kalshi.com/RSBN, callshe.com. It is your go-to for all of those interesting questions. I mean, they even ask about egg prices or who you think will be the next prime minister anywhere. We just did the Canadian one recently, but that's Mark Carney now, of course. A great trip by him recently to the White House to see President Trump, and President Trump said never say never. Might be the 51st state. So that was a good exchange between two friends, and it shows you could dialogue as friends even with major disagreements.
There you go. It's true. And then all the interaction that President Trump has to do when it comes to Zelensky or Putin or others is because it's part of the diplomacy of what's needed for wars to stop and deals to be done. And, a lot of people are like, well, why are you saying that you're a friend of X, Y, and Z person? That's a dictator. They don't know. They don't get it. He is a master strategist, and it's great to see it. It's great to see it. All right, so 10/12, Friday, May 16th. I believe we do have the video ready for the Air Force One trip that President Trump is on currently back to the States. As soon as I do get that green light, we'll go to the audio only because the on-camera technical glitches that happened from the feed that we received and every network has received. We can't play that one, but we do have an audio version. We do want to hear, here at the network, specifically what President Trump was asked, what he talked about on this trip that he is on currently right now. So we're going to hear that as soon as I get the green light to toss to it. Also, of course, taking off from UAE overnight, our hours overnight. With just such a great trip from the leader of the free world.
I'm sure he'll be excited to come back home and see his lovely wife, our First Lady, Melania Trump, who's doing a great job with her Be Best campaign and really led legislation recently. I don't think this has really been talked about, where the deep fakes that were happening. And this all came about from really Senator Cruz pushing on this bipartisan legislation. Also some teamwork from the other side, Amy Klobuchar helping from Minnesota as well. But they sat down and they had this discussion with people who have been deep faked online, either on porn videos or photos, and how disturbing. Think about this if you're in high school and that's spread around the high school and these horrible rumors are started about you. Well, that happened. So legislation that came in a bipartisan manner, that was really pushed by Melania Trump. She went on the Hill and got this done. And to her credit, thank you for doing that, Madam First Lady, because she's defending America's women in the process. Because I just can't imagine something like that as a 15 or 16-year-old, and then all of a sudden you're not getting into colleges, you're not getting jobs because some people think you're up to, different antics that might not be becoming of people's, personal values, religious values. And when it wasn't your fault in the first place. So thank you to Senator Cruz, Senator Klobuchar. We'll give you due credit where credit's due on this bill, and also our First Lady.
And then shifting over to the southern border, all of the military, the Customs Border Protection, the law enforcement, whether it's local, state, county, wherever, when it comes to the southern border mission, stopping the flow of fentanyl, stopping any kind of flow of illegal aliens coming through, stopping any human trafficking, drug trafficking. So we see a lot going on. I'll tell you, I put it in my notes and I simply said this. DJT has been president for 4 months. Is there anyone that has worked so hard at leading our country? I don't think there has been.
I don't think so, at least in the modern presidency. He will be amongst the legends. There's no question about that. That will just be a matter of time until I think he's on Mount Rushmore, or maybe there's a Greco-Roman shrine in Washington, D.C., because someone that was surprised by that was Abraham Lincoln. He made very crucial decisions, some very controversial. For example, suspending habeas corpus, really using those wartime powers perhaps more than any other president. But at the same time, he realized just what he was up against to preserve this union. And ultimately, it wasn't the main reason he did it, freeing people and a group of people that was determined by the 14th Amendment, that birthright citizenship was for African slaves who were on the soil and what would happen with them after their freedom. And that was part of Abraham Lincoln's plan. That was part of the Republican Party, why it came to formation. It was against slavery. It was against polygamy. A lot of people don't know that because there's this fake news going out there. There was somehow a big switch in the 1960s, and I won't go down that rabbit hole. That will be something for another time to really break down how academia tried to make LBJ out to be this good guy when it was Republicans who led the civil rights movement 100 years after the Civil War. But we could go down that history path on another show. In the meantime, this president, I think, is within those ranks of Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, all the way to Lincoln, to Teddy Roosevelt, to FDR, to Ronald Reagan, all of the great presidents who stood in the breach, men in the arena who were ready, willing, and able to have the buck stop with them. And it's just impressive to watch it in real time.
And he's just getting started. So it's great to watch it here in this second term. Before we go to some more video from the UAE, Robert, you brought up Mount Rushmore. All right, so listen, those of you watching in support of President Trump, and in support of President Trump being on Mount Rushmore, maybe next to Lincoln or next to Washington, not in the comments. Let's do this. Let's have some fun here. On X and on Truth Social, those of you that have an X, Truth Social, Facebook account, let's just type this simple sentence. I want Donald, or how about Donald Trump should be on Mount Rushmore? Simple as that. Donald Trump should be on Mount Rushmore. I'm going to type it on my Truth Social right when we toss this UAE video. But seriously, Donald Trump should be on Mount Rushmore. Let's all post it on social media right now, whatever social media you have, Facebook, whatever it is. Donald Trump should be on Mount Rushmore. So I'm about to do it here on my phone in just a second. But let's go to that UAE video where President Trump is touring the Abrahamic house there in Abu Dhabi.
Each place of worship is quite different. So you look at the presentation of the city, right at the heart. You have the sukkah in the middle. There's a light coming down. This is the tabernacle that comes down. It's a door that represents Jewish people. Very good things. So you have the place of worship. Of course, you have the access. Of course, the Torah, the Bible, now, yes, so the home is so that each has a cultural system. So the home is a usual It's amazing, Mr. President, the amount of people from the Jewish faith coming to the synagogue. It's the first time they went to the synagogue.
It's amazing.
Yes,
It's pretty amazing.
and when we celebrate Yom Kippur, in all 60 years, we show Farsh.
Amazing. Right? Amazing. Thank you.
And Mr. President, if you look, you allow Mr. President, where the numbers when you have people fighting. People might think this was done by accident. It's specialized in done by design. It's a working class. Nothing like that to really look at the president to want to know how people don't say that. One serious of course, the church and the Bible
And amazing to see a church in the UAE, the Abrahamic house where all faiths can come and celebrate. But there's an altar there in Ambo, the cross. So amazing things happening. The revisions of the people running now the Gulf states, even much different, I think, than their fathers and grandfathers. These are constitutional monarchies, but definitely a new vision. Women narrating these events, these conferences. And you saw just the love and adoration towards President Trump and regarding him as His Excellency. I kind of like that title, and I was joking around earlier this week that this fulfills John Adams' first role when he was vice president. He wasn't sure what the role really was. I think some, like Kamala Harris, still did not understand the role specifically. Of course, our current vice president doing an extraordinary job with that, hosting police officers at his home this week in Washington, D.C. But think about that way back when, John Adams saying, should we call him His Excellency? And the Senate, the Congress at the time saying, Mr. Adams, stop with your antics. And it's just great now that he has that title when he goes abroad, at least in the Middle East.
Exactly, and more than $2 trillion in economic deals just done in that whirlwind of 3-nation tour in the Middle East. This all brought to you by All Family Pharmacy and also Brightcore. But let's go to All Family Pharmacy first here, as you can get ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, more than 200 essential medications, antibiotics, all sorts of stuff, and you can get it in bulk. And this is, one of these things where some pharmacies, most doctors, they're not even going to write you a prescription to get ivermectin. So they really should, especially because it works. Now, you have to consult your local doctor, but I take it when I need to. But anyway, I would have loved to know about allfamilypharmacy.com. My wife and I had COVID a couple years back, and we didn't have ivermectin on hand, and it would have been great to have this. And I wish I knew about All Family Pharmacy, but I do know now about it.
It's a great organization, and especially with all of the emergencies that have happened recently, say there's a major storm and knocks out the electricity, you got to have that medicine cabinet full, and they can get it to you literally in no time. Once you make that order, 24 hours later, it could be at your doorstep. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN10, RSBN10 for 10% off. Crucial for the health of you and yours, and antibiotics as well. So many options here. It's a great website, and we hope you caught that interview with David McCary just last week, and we'll probably have that again for you very soon because he really details all of the significant actions taken by this wonderful company.
Exactly. Speaking of wonderful companies, both allfamilypharmacy.com and mybrightcore.com. Kim Bright, the owner, we interviewed her last week. She's actually going to be on the show today in about 30 minutes from now. A great patriot, loves President Trump, MAGA, MAHA, and of course, Kimchi One, her great product that she's put a lot of time into, a lot of experience in health for gut health and immune support, anti-aging properties. Robert, I actually was talking to my wife about this the other day. I said, do you know about kimchi and all that? She's like, yeah, it's a probiotic. It's really good. And I'm like, well, you know what? We should get this stuff.
Well, she is quite the smart person, so it is good to have for that gut health. And it goes really with everything. I love that stuff, like sauerkraut, kimchi. It's a reason why certain cultures are so healthy. I mean, kimchi is almost added, I think, in almost all South Korean cuisine. And it's good for you. It has ginger components. It has all of this gut health, immune support, anti-aging. But we know that you could be on the go as well. So that's why Brightcore has put together Kimchi One. So you have it in the tablet form, non-GMO, all made in the USA. Get 25% off with code mybrightcore.com/RSBN, or you can call today and do not delay with it because this is too important. 888-722-0936. All health starts in the gut, and I'd like to know. You can write in feedback@rsbn.tv or write in on your favorite social media app where you see us and talk to us after taking this if you have less brain fog, if you just feel better, if your digestion is better, because I guarantee it with this product, you'll be experiencing that.
All right, mybrightcore.com/RSBN as we approach the bottom of the hour here, Friday, May 16th. Let's travel thousands of miles to the east because we have video from overnight when President Trump, during the day there, boarded the Air Force One plane, and that was in Abu Dhabi. So we have that video. Let's go to that and show it to you. And that was from overnight, our time. And during the day, of course, there. How awesome was that?
Oh, fantastic. And I was just mentioning to you, Matthew, that if you watch the protocol of our great Secret Service, they're standing right at that door of the beast. God forbid anything were to happen. They're right on top of it. Sean Curran doing an amazing job as the head of that organization who protected President Trump on his detail for the last decade and continues to do so as now the top dog. And it's great. On this National Police Week, there's lingo that I learned, whether it was my time working on that great show, Chicago PD, all the way up through politics and nonprofit management to the news. They have a saying that says, I'm not a suit. What that means is the guys who have been in the field, who have done the tough work, who have put in those long hours, you want them at the top of the agency, not lawyers, and nothing wrong with lawyers, like Jim Comey, who like to play with seashells. You want the actual people who have done the work, and it changes an agency, whether it's your local police department all the way to the top in the feds, and we're seeing that in real time. Thank God for that.
Director Curran is an absolute rock star for our country. And to your point, you just thanked God as well. We thank God for his power, protection, and being with our president, and also being with our country. And we pray for that to be the same for other countries around the world, too. I mean, when it comes to a faith aspect. As it is now, the bottom of the hour, 10:30, Friday, May 16th. I'm Matthew Alvarez. This, of course, is Robert McNeely. Let's take a break. We'll be right back here on RSBN Live.
You've heard how hard it can be to get access to medications like ivermectin, all the things they don't want you to take because they're actually effective and they don't cost all that much, right? You've seen that one before. So it's critical to have something like that on hand for any emergency and to be prepared in a time of crisis. And that's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're cutting through the nonsense, and they make it easy to get hard-to-find medications when you need them most. They'll provide the prescription, no hoops to jump through, no waiting room, no hassle, and they deliver it right to your door. All Family Pharma even lets you order in bulk so you can stay ahead of the curve. Head over to allfamilypharmacy.com for 10% off your first order. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com. It's simple. Get the 10% savings. Be prepared.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, the 91-year-old formulator of Immuno 150, an incredible nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it. Now, Immuno 150 is different because it contains 70 plant-derived minerals and 80 other nutrients. Dr. Linus Pauling, known for vitamin C, was instrumental in convincing me to get into the mineral business in 1983. He said the world is sick due to a lack of minerals in topsoil. He said the body needs 60 minerals, but the average food and supplement has no more than 12. That's the reason for Immuno 150. Since its inception, it's had a powerful impact on the lives of thousands of people who could not get any help from various supplements they took or their doctor. Now I suggest you try Immuno 150 and see what 70 minerals, CoQ10, and 80 nutrients can do for you. Look at the 2 videos on our website. Millions have. Now consider placing an order for Immuno 150 online or call our toll-free number. I know you'll be glad you did.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez alongside Robert McNeely. And Robert, happy Friday to you.
Yes, TGIF, my friend. It is a great week, perhaps the best week for this administration. I mean, they're just knocking it out of the park, but so many wins this week, especially with this really first foreign trip. We had, of course, President Trump with world leaders honoring the life and legacy of Pope Francis at the Vatican. That's where that minerals deal got finalized. Just talking, there was just 2 seats. The Monsignors, the Catholic Church, brought up those 2 seats for Zelensky and President Trump, and they just discussed in the beautiful St. Peter's Basilica and finalized that minerals deal, which will be great for the United States. Minerals also included with the deal with Saudi Arabia, also Qatar, when it comes to national security efforts and AI technologies, oil and energy. We saw the same in the United Arab Emirates. This has been a successful trip, bar none, perhaps the best in modern American presidential history.
I mean, more than $2 trillion in economic deals. Outside of that, to your point with Zelensky, you know, obviously Putin was supposed to meet with Zelensky yesterday. That didn't go down, but still we're hoping for some sort of peace deal, and the president, I don't believe, will give up on something like that. I mean, I know that there's been talk of just, hey, well, they have to decide, but he's doing everything he can to have that war stopped. It has to take those 2 parties, though. As he says, it takes 2 to tango. It's pretty simple stuff. It's common sense, and we're glad you're joining us here and streaming with us as we have a number of videos still to toss to from overnight to show you more of President Trump's visit to the UAE, and also I'm really looking forward to this Air Force One press gaggle audio that we're going to play for you here at the network, because we want to hear what President Trump, I haven't heard it yet. Robert, I don't think has either. Nope. We're just looking forward to hearing what the president said on his way back to the States. We'll have that in just a bit. But before we do, let's go to Colonial Metals Group. freegoldguy.com/RSBN, of course, is the website for tax-free, 100% tax-free gold and silver as a backup to your dollar.
It's common sense at this point to have gold and silver in your portfolio. I'm sure you've seen Paul Stone, the great CEO of Colonial Metals Group, detailing why you should scan that QR code now to shield your savings. The Chinese Communist Party out of control with their reciprocal tariffs, with also the war games against Taiwan. They've attempted to buy up prime farmland and real estate in the United States around our military bases. Why are they doing that? Their goal is to spy. We saw that weather balloon that came over the country and was not taken down until it got to the East Coast. It started all the way in Montana, thanks to AutoPen and the losers in that administration. But never fear, Donald Trump is here. Regardless, though, of who's in charge, we're still $36 trillion in debt. And what has stood the test of time, the best bet, your hedge against inflation, is gold and silver. So freegoldguy.com/RSBN has all of those free, no obligation details to help you and your loved ones find out how gold and silver can help with all of your commodities.
Exactly. So freegoldguy.com is the website. Also, let's go to mypillow.com/RSBN. I'm just thinking about my coffee right now because it's very good stuff. And also the Giza Dream Sheets. You see that right there, the sale for $49.98. Use that promo code. There's more than 2,000 products, Robert, as you know. Right. Can you list 3 products that you like over there?
Oh, well, I do like the My Slippers, and those are fantastic. I know you have a pair as well. My coffee is delicious, and I love the original My Pillow. It's helped my sleep. It's fantastic. I use it on occasion, especially I will take it on the road. And I like to do double pillows, so I actually get 2 of them. I put them right together, and you don't have to do that, but it just gives me a little extra boost because I'm a back sleeper as well. So that's what's great about Mike Lindell. He realized, I'm not getting sleep, I'm not feeling well. How about I do something about it? And it's that entrepreneurial spirit in America that makes a huge difference. Everything made right here in the good old US of A in his home state of Minnesota. So don't delay. Call today, 800-836-7566. As President Trump said in Warren, Michigan a couple of weeks ago, for 100 days of celebration, Mr. Mike Lindell is the master marketer out there. And who knows, maybe they'll have a TV show after this second term.
On Right Side Broadcasting now.
I'd love to see that.
We'll see. All right, so mypillow.com/RSBN. It's 10:37. Thanks again for streaming in. Let's go overnight from the overnight hours, a video that we have of President Trump not only boarding the plane, he already boarded the plane, the video that we showed you. Now let's watch him take off here, and then we will be showing you the audio, or listening to the audio of President Trump's press gaggle on Air Force One. But for now, let's go to Abu Dhabi as he takes off back to the States.
American firepower.
Yeah, what are you going to say to that?
Yeah,
That's Air Force One.
I don't know why it's so beautiful in the desert. I just can't get over that. Something that's just shining and gleaming.
What? President Trump and team and pilots, can you just fly to Arizona because it looks cool out there too? But I'm kidding. Of course, it looks great everywhere. I mean, it's a beautiful plane. Now, President Trump has a new 747. And directors, I don't know if we still have this photo. This was from earlier in the week, and if we don't, it's okay. I mean, the people have seen a lot of this photo of the new paint job that President Trump wants to have on the new Boeing plane when it comes in. So will he paint this 747, or the team paint it, the darker blue and the red and the white there? We have a photo that we were showing earlier in the week from the Oval Office where this die-cast metal plane with the new paint job is right there. So that looks awesome as well.
I like that too, yeah, it's great. And every president leaves their mark in one way or another. This president with many firsts. The first president to set foot in Qatar. The first president in 30 years to be in the UAE. So we know he likes to set records, and that's a beautiful looking plane, which I'm sure will have his touch with it. As we see in the Oval Office, 20 portraits of great American presidents and leaders who set the stage for this constitutional republic to thrive. Also gold, gold, gold throughout the beautiful Oval Office. You have Ronald Reagan's rug there as well, a timeless commodity, because when you enter there, see the carpet itself does not cover all of the oak floor. They installed new oak floors right before Eisenhower. I got to see this for myself. And you could wear the steel cleats back in the day on the golf course. Most of them are banned now because they really do scuff up the course. And you were playing yesterday. You could see the scuff marks from Eisenhower. They're in the floor. And they thought, well, we replaced them with oak now. Let's just leave it. So it's literally a museum in this workspace that countless historical things have happened in the Oval Office. So it's timeless. And President Trump just adding his little spin and twist to it to make it look even more beautiful.
Speaking of that, I mean, the direction of the plane right there, the nose of the plane is actually pointing kind of to the Declaration of Independence, which is to the right of when President Trump sits at the Resolute desk. So quite awesome stuff at the Oval Office. We're going to get ready here. This is the time that I've been waiting for. I know Robert has too. We're going to show you and listen in on the president's press gaggle, which is that mini press conference on Air Force One heading back to the States. Let's go to Colonial Metals Group. Once again here, freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Use the QR code, tax-free, 100% tax-free there. Tax-sheltered IRA, 401k, all backed in gold and silver.
And you've got good voices like Judge Jeanine Pirro, who you can trust. She's going to kick some serious progressive globalist law-breaking tail in D.C. under President Trump's appointment. And she knows a thing about gold and silver, just like Paul Stone, the CEO of this organization, knows so in depth. If you watch our interviews, we really break down for roughly 20 minutes why gold and silver are such a hot commodity for your portfolio. You might have properties, assets, a 401k, an IRA, all good things, but you can roll some of that personal wealth into gold and silver. You can hold it. And what else is there? The crypto, which is exciting. President Trump loves it. You really can't hold that. Someone can even hack that. And I'm not saying don't go that direction, but gold and silver is not a privilege. It's a must to protect you and your family, and especially your savings. So scan that QR code now and make sure you beat inflation and beat the Chinese Communist Party in this golden era of America. freegoldguy.com/RSBN.
And there's no script, or in the sense of no teleprompter. Robert kicking some serious butt today. I think I'm doing pretty good too, but here we go. Let's continue
fantastic.
on. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a great day.
Can you do it in President Trump's, you're doing a fantastic.
Fantastic job. That's all I'll do.
Okay. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Of course, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and methylene blue. These are 3 medications that you might not be able to get very easily with a doctor's, prescription, or the pharmacy might not even have it. But All Family Pharmacy does. More than 200 essential medications there for you, and antibiotics. You can also bulk order. You can order overnight. It could be there the next day in some cases. Also, just fill out some medical online paperwork there, and you'll get what you need in your medicine cabinet.
And that's what's so nice about this, because we had David McCary on, a pharmacist for this organization. Just think about a situation if the lights go out, it's an emergency. We've experienced it throughout the Southeast in the recent weeks and months, really dating back to Election Day, the 6 months. Thank God for the great governors we have who are term limited. So get involved in 2026, because we're losing a lot of great governors throughout the Southeast. And imagine having a medicine cabinet empty in the middle of an emergency. Don't do that. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, right there for you. They can get your order to you with code RSBN10 for 10% off in under 24 hours from when you place that order. Imagine it coming right to your doorstep. You don't have to hustle and fussle and worry about no insurance, this insurance, and dealing with those big pharmacies or even big pharma who might try to prevent you from having these essential medications.
And there you go, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. May 16th, 10:44, at about 12:15 Eastern. Carla Sands will join us live. I believe she's back in the States. She was in the Middle East as well, working with her company there, the America First Policy Institute, doing great things for the country, speaking about the president's trade deals and the like. So she'll join us for more of a Middle East wrap at about 12:15 Eastern. For now, let's go to Air Force One. This is going to be audio only because there was a technical glitch with the feed to all the networks with the on-camera video. So what we're going to do is just play the audio so we can listen in on President Trump's trip back to the United States of America. Let's listen.
Wouldn't have been available to him except for November 5th. November 5th was a big day for our country. So I just want to thank you. You have great stamina also. We all have stamina because you needed it. That was a test. I think they were giving us a test. But it was amazing what they've done in all 3 countries. You can't speak more highly. The job they've done is, in a fairly short period of time, is just outstanding. And they're great people, great leaders, 3 great leaders. So it's an honor. Now we'll go back to D.C. and I have a nice grandchild waiting, which I'll see soon. But this was a fantastic moment for our country. I really believe that. Everyone's talking about it. And the respect shown to our country was incredible. Because nobody's treated like that. Nobody's treated well like that. So thank you all very much. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, you arrived here with a big victory. Nice to see you. Thanks for bringing us. You arrived here with a big victory, getting Idan Alexander out, working directly with Hamas, the last remaining American. Do you think the Israelis and Bibi Netanyahu can get his hostages out?
I don't know. We're going to find out pretty soon. We're going to know pretty soon. They're not in good shape, as you know, and different places. It's not one place. It's different places. Some of them are in better shape than others. A little bit depends on the place where they are. But we'll be working with them to get them out.
The Israelis didn't want the U.S. to be recognizing the new Syrian government. Is there a message that...
I don't know. I didn't ask them about that. I thought it was the right thing to do. I've been given a lot of credit for doing it. Look, we want Syria to succeed. It's been a mess for 10 years and much longer than that. It would not have been. These were very biting. When you look at the sanctions, these were really brutal. And they would have, I would say, zero chance of success. And this way they have a chance. Their leader's a strong person, but young and a lot of energy and wants to do a good job.
Mr. President, the IDF was planning to send in tens of thousands of more troops and expand the war in Gaza, especially if there wasn't a ceasefire while you were here. Do you support that?
Well, we're going to see what happens. I think a lot of good things are going to happen over the next month, and we're going to see. And we have to help also out the Palestinians. A lot of people are starving on Gaza, so we have to look at both sides. But we're going to do a good job. We're very happy with what happened with, I hope it continues, and I think it will, but what happens with India and Pakistan, that was a big success. If you would have seen the level of anger between the two, that was not a good thing, yes.
A senior Hamas leader said that they might be willing to give up power, an Egyptian proposal, in order to bring peace. Is that a step that you're welcoming?
Everything, but we want to get the hostages back. I've gotten them, big majority back, but we want to get the hostages back. So we'll see how that works out. Okay?
Mr. President, are you putting to call Vladimir Putin? How do you think you can get those talks on track?
We have to meet. He and I will meet. I think we'll solve it, or maybe not, but at least we'll know. And if we don't solve it, it'll be very interesting.
And then did Austin Tice come up when you talked to the Syrian president?
I always talk about Austin Tice. Now, Austin Tice hasn't been seen in many, many years. You know that. He's got a great mother who's just working so hard to find her boy. So I understand it. But Austin has not been seen in many, many years.
You were joking about the endurance that it takes to do this. This was a lot to do in a short period of time. Conversations about endurance often focus now on Joe Biden and his endurance and his abilities. The Her tapes right now, there's a lot of discussion about it. When will they be released? Will you release them? How soon should we anticipate it?
I haven't looked into that. That's up to Pam and the group. I haven't really looked into it. Look, everybody understands the condition of him. I know people that are 89, 90, 92, 93 years old that are literally perfect. But Joe was not one of them. And they did a lot of hiding. They were really playing games, and you can't do that. Our country's at stake. You see, even a thing like this, there's so many decisions for billions and billions, but then you have even more important decisions. You have decisions for life, and you can't have a man in that condition. And everybody was holding back, including the press, including the media.
So you're welcoming white South Afrikaners into the country as refugees when you've closed off that door to a lot of other refugees from other parts of the world. What message does that send to those who say it isn't? Why is that fair?
Well, I think if I see people in distress, I don't care what color, what they look like, what anything, their size, their height, their eyes, I don't care. But I think that from all evidence, the farmers in South Africa are being treated brutally. And it's been reported, and nobody wants to cover it. But they happen to be white, and if they were black, I'd do the exact same thing. And we treat people very well when we see there's a genocide going on. So if it's a genocide, that's terrible, and I happen to believe it could very well be. South Africa's out of control, and it's been out of control for a long time, and the media doesn't report it. And I'm not looking for reporting because, believe me, it's easier for me not to do anything. It's a lot easier because I don't get nasty questions like that. But the fact is that we're about saving lives, and we're going to do that. So we've made a home, and we'll make a home for other people that are treated badly, no matter what their color.
Will you go to the G20 there?
I'm not sure.
Not sure.
I'm really not sure.
On Iran, has the U.S. given them a formal proposal? Has Steve Witkoff handed that over?
Yeah, they have a proposal, but more importantly, they know they have to move quickly, or something bad's going to happen. Thank you very much.
How's Tiffany doing? She's well. Everybody's good at home. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Travel safe, sir.
Thanks.
216 to 223.
Great to see that there.
Oh, yeah, and just a ridiculous question from, I think it was Fake News ABC right at the end there, but I'm just listening to the voices of different colleagues bringing race into this. In South Africa right now, you have a communist party that has branched out that literally says, kill the white farmer. And so we have South Africans who have been granted refugee status, and President Trump coolly, calmly, presidentially answering that ridiculous question that it doesn't matter skin color. We're going to bring people to the United States who need safe haven. We've always been that hope. We've always been that charitable bright light. Our Lady in the New York Harbor shines that beacon of hope throughout the world. So I'm tired of the narrative that he's anti-immigrant. He's married one of the best immigrants in the history of time, and she will be on Monday with President Trump to witness the signing of the Takedown Act, which she led on. I get a little bit, my grinds are gearing up, or whatever you say about that, because I'm frustrated when you have situations of people saying, she didn't do much, she wasn't on Capitol Hill. Where is your mind? Where is your head at? But that's why it's important to really prescribe to, share, subscribe to the new media and what we're doing here on Right Side, unlike anything else out there.
It's wonderful to have conservative media out there for we the people and the majority of the country. And there are people around the world that literally watch this network and watch conservative media in general because they love the freedom that we do have currently. We got to continue that here in this country. Great points there, Robert. I mean, when we look at South Africa, I did watch a number of the videos you're referring to, and there's this group that they wear all red, and they're chanting and cheering against the white farmers there. If it was white people chanting and cheering against black or any other color or whatever, none of the colors, that's the point. That's exactly. President Trump saying. We would help if there was somebody this is a whole rabbit trail to get into.
Oh, it is.
All I'm saying is if there's something like that happening where there's genocide happening in a country to that extent, he's doing the right thing with these South Africaners. That's what's happening. So, all right, so 10:53, 7 minutes from the top of the hour, May 16th. Thanks so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Other stories we're following, we've spoken about this one quite extensively, the James Comey scandal, if you want to call it that. Because when you put something like what we talked about earlier, the 8647 there within the beach, and he takes a photo of it saying, I was walking by and saw this, and he posts about it. On the heels of the following things, President Trump called him a dirty cop. We've seen the traitor that he has been over the years. We know that he's been anti-President Trump. And then on top of that, President Trump already has survived 2 assassination attempts. You go with that context, and then you post about it. And then the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, says he should be in jail. She said that on the record on national TV last night on Fox. This is national TV here as well. And we believe that we have more of a common sense approach and the heart of the American people more than a lot of that mainstream. I really believe it, and I know a lot of you do too. But your thoughts about the James Comey situation?
It's remarkable because I almost did not want to believe it when I heard it last night for the first time. Then I looked into it. That's sure enough his Instagram. He posted that about an interesting shell formation on the beach. And it was a clear message, a clear threat across the channels. For example, he spoke to this, Matthew, earlier in the broadcast. You can't say fire in a crowded theater because you're threatening people and then causing mass chaos to take place. But for someone to threaten the President of the United States, at the very least, should be investigated because of his influence. We know he's a spy. We know that he is the Benedict Arnold of our time. And again, it's not just hosts analyzing this. Tulsi Gabbard saying he should be in jail. That's a big deal coming from the Director of National Intelligence. And I look forward to the upcoming investigation of this individual who has been nothing but heartache for the American people.
I watched the clip of Bret Baier's interview from Fox News Channel interviewing President Trump about this. And President Trump said that he believes that that is an assassination, not attempt, but an assassination request or whatever, that he was referring to assassination when it comes to that 8647. That President Trump said that. And then Bret Baier, instead of, kind of understanding or agreeing, he goes, well, Comey, he apologized for it. Really? That's what you say, Bret? Come on, man. Get with the program. You didn't do it in Arizona either when it was the 2020 election, but that's a different story. Anyway, so Verizon ending all DEI programs, another headline we're following. That's great to see. Providence, Rhode Island, the Palestinian flag is being flown above the City Hall of Providence, Rhode Island today instead of our flag. The Palestinian flag is, and they're proud to do that in Providence. So, oh boy, it's tough to see that.
Yeah, it's really very sad. Some things are reserved for the American flag, which I think should fly in front of every household, in front of really everywhere, but especially on government buildings, as you see our beautiful White House. It's the United States flag, our Star-Spangled Banner, and right under that, the POW MIA flag to remember those missing and prisoners of war who have suffered so much for the cause of freedom. We also have to remember that this country is not only going MAGA, it's going MAHA. So also breaking news this week, the great In-N-Out of California, which I think you can find as far east, or well, the east meets the west, at least in the United States. Texas has those. I hope Georgia, maybe Alabama would get some, but no more dyes. They're going to go more of a beef tallow route as well. So Secretary Kennedy doing some amazing things with the public-private partnerships. I'm not sure why every governor in the United States should go along with this, take the lead of West Virginia. I know Arkansas, so many throughout the Southeast who have partnered with Secretary Kennedy on this important work to make America healthy again.
And in just a few minutes, we'll interview Kim Bright, the owner of Brightcore, who is full on for MAGA and MAHA. We'll be talking to her in just a couple minutes from now. Speaking of the red, white, and blue, those two American flags that will be there coming up on the sides of the White House, the 100-foot poles that President